from the News Channel 5 Network. This is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. Glad you are with us tonight. We have a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on. Of course, in the news today, these new redistricting maps came out. We may talk about that. That was not the focus of our show as we were coming into this. We have another fascinating topic, I think, in this hot real estate market. What is the impact on black home ownership? What is the racial wealth gap that we are seeing emerge as housing prices soar? And we want to bring in to talk about this Tequila Johnson. She is co-founder and vice president of the Equity Alliance. She joins us via Zoom, as all of our guests are right now. And you've been on before. Tequila, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ben.
So let's start with the housing market. This idea for this discussion tonight was brought on by a news story that came out saying, it was a national news story, and it focused on Knoxville, Tennessee. And it said, home prices are up. For black families, is selling grandma's house the right choice? And it went through what is happening with home ownership across the board with high prices, but really what we're seeing in the black community. And I know you're a community organizer, you work all across the state. What are you seeing in this hot housing market and its impact on black communities, minority communities?
I think we all know that on a national level, black home ownership is decreasing. The percentages, the statistics say that black people are not able to afford to live in the neighborhoods where they have previously lived and where they work. And so in terms of Nashville and Memphis and Knoxville, what we're seeing is major investment in the state, major investment in the South. A lot of coastal companies are realizing that there's great talent in the South, that there's inexpensive land and that they can move here, and they're moving here and they're bringing people that aren't from here that are used to paying really, really expensive prices for homes, and the prices are skyrocketing. People are being bought out, being pushed out. The people who make Nashville, and make Memphis, and Knoxville are no longer able to afford to live in those areas anymore. And it's disheartening. And it really speaks to what we value as a state.
And so what this article got into is, when there is a grandmother, she dies, she passes the house down to maybe more than one person in the family, you know, that can create problems, and sometimes people sell. And so what are you advising people? What are you telling people in communities? You know, when you have a house, you're going to be getting some offers, but what are you saying to people?
I'm telling them to know their options. Don't just jump on the first offer because it seems lucrative. If the right thing for you and your family to do is to sell, then I'm advising people to not sell to cash buyers, not sell to developers who are going to come in and put 5 houses on one lot, but sell to a family, sell to someone who's in the area. Most times it's the same amount. It may not be a cash offer, it may not come immediately, but there are opportunities for other people who, you know, are African American that work and live in those communities to purchase those homes. But at the core is be educated on what your options are as a seller. Make sure you contact a realtor who you trust, someone refers to you. There are a lot of amazing realtors out there. Check them out and make sure you know your options, because a lot of people are being taken advantage of. And the second thing is, make sure you have a plan. If you are living in a home and you're planning to sell, consider your commute to work. Consider how much money you're going to make off of the home and how much it's going to cost to purchase another home, because the last thing you will want to see is someone sell and become a renter. But being we know a lot of those don't sell grandma's house tactics aren't equitable. A lot of people are being targeted. A lot of people are being intimidated out of their homes as well. So we really have to lift that up too when you talk about why not selling grandma's house.
What do you mean by that? They're being targeted or intimidated? What do you mean by that?
For example, just what happened in Nashville in 2020 with the tornado. A lot of people were being targeted in the middle of a crisis. Right now, we're still, operating in a pandemic, so people are still in a crisis. And during those times, people find it's easy for predatory developers to come in and take advantage of people who they feel may not have any better options or may not have the resources or access to the resources to know that they're being taken advantage of. So it's really a lot of things that are playing into what we see happening in the state. But we have to make sure that people know that, you can't just come into Nashville or Knoxville or Chattanooga when there's an equity alliance present and take advantage of people.
The Equity Alliance, tell me again, and all of our viewers, what the Equity Alliance does.
Absolutely. So at the core, we are a Black power building organization, and we believe in economic advancement and civic engagement for Black and brown communities. We realize that having things like home ownership lead to pathways out of poverty and generational wealth that can help to improve the quality of life for Black people. So we are all about, I like to tell people, we operate at the intersection of economics and politics. It looks like a lot of civic engagement because as what we see happening right now in the state, we realize that politically a lot of the things that influence our finances are voted upon. So we really try to make sure that Black communities are involved in the political process, not just through voting, but through accountability, through leadership, which means sitting on boards, running for office. And we also want to make sure that while we are fighting for that political power and political access, that we're also thinking about the economics that drive politics.
I've interviewed you before on this show about registering voters. You've talked about that. You've definitely done a lot of work in that area. And so I know you as a somewhat political organization. How is it that home ownership and educating people about home ownership fits into what it is you are talking about?
Absolutely. Like right now, we're seeing all of our Nashville urban core, the same area that is being rapidly gentrified, has also just been gerrymandered, or maps have been presented for the districts to be really, really split up and gerrymandered, which would dilute the voting power of the urban core. And when you think about what does that mean for home ownership, what does that mean for creating generational wealth? Well, a lot of the things that go into home ownership, taxes, zoning, codes, are voted on. And if the Black community does not have the political power to control who sits in those offices, who makes those decisions, then when those decisions are made, they're going to be made without the Black community in mind. And what that's going to look like is we're going to see an increase in gentrification. We're going to see less investment in those communities because we know that the congressional districts, the federal, our federal elected officials have a lot of input in our state and local budgets. And so we're going to see that money go elsewhere because we're not really in a position to advocate for our communities when we see gerrymandered districts. And so that is a lot, but it's you, like you said, you've interviewed me before. And so I started in the whole civic engagement realm, doing voter registration and working on campaigns. And I feel like every year I go like 10 feet down deep into just how all of these issues and policies and different things are connected. And it is amazing just how much politics controls your pockets. So we see that and we know what's going on.
Do you think that message, and we may talk more about the maps, we're gonna stay with this topic first, but we may talk more about those maps. Do you think that message about the importance of political engagement, political power, is it getting out there, or are people so frustrated and they feel like it's not making a difference in my life that they are not getting that message?
I think yes, and as we see just based off of the voter engagement in the state, it is increasing. Is it increasing as fast as I would like? No. But I think when you have organizations like the Equity Alliance who understand, who are reputable advocates, and people respect us and know us, we're in the community, and you see that education component around this is how, and you see it play out, it's not going to be something that happens overnight. The injustices didn't just happen overnight. Like, these are centuries of wrongdoing and oppression that we're trying to reverse. But I think that it is going to make a difference. But there are still people who do feel like it does not make a difference in their lives, because there are people who are going to the polls, they are casting their votes, and then they look up and their districts are gerrymandered, or their homes are being taken, or their taxes are being impacted and they don't know anything about it, or they don't have trash pickup, or they're not seeing an increase in teacher pay, so they don't have quality teachers. Their schools have 2 bus drivers. Like, the issues are so large that we're able to really make those connections for people who may not see. No, that's not saying that is going to decrease voter apathy, but it will increase voter awareness.
We have a call. I'm gonna start taking some calls. The line's open, 615-737+, 615-737-7587. Hugh is on the line. Hello, Hugh?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Hello. Hello to your guest. I'm calling because with the new gerrymandering, the split in Davidson County, basically, and some of the other cities, it's just a Republican tactic that's gonna, and they hope will give them more Republicans to help them in the U.S. House of Representatives. But with that comes some local ramifications of that. And people and citizens really need to be aware of that. And I do think policies could trickle down that could be adverse for those wanting to keep their homes and those looking to buy homes. And what we have to really be careful about, even today, Ohio State Supreme Court threw out a case where they were trying to redraw the maps. Today, our state Supreme Court, our Governor Lee, just appointed and put somebody that he likes as probably Republican on the state Supreme Court. So even if this goes to the Supreme Court, if somebody challenges it, we're still on a losing end, because basically you got, I believe it's 3 Supreme Court justices for the state of Tennessee. And so people really need to get involved and get active quick, because they're definitely trying to manipulate and tank the Kool-Aid, if you will. Thank you very much.
All right, Hugh, thank you. All right, so he's talking about the district gerrymandering. Basically today, the legislature came out with its proposed maps for the congressional districts. They do this every 10 years based on census data. Davidson County has always been in one district, but the proposal is to divide it among 3 districts now. And Democrats are saying that is because Davidson County is a Democratic stronghold and they want to dilute the Democratic vote. And that the word that is sometimes used for that is gerrymandering. So that's kind of background on what we're talking about. What do you think about what Hugh is saying there?
I think that he was right on with what he was saying. We are seeing, unfortunately, the Equity Alliance, we are a nonpartisan organization. So we are all about building Black power. So we don't, look at this as a red versus blue, but unfortunately, because the majority of Black people vote Democrat, we are impacted by the decisions that are being made at the state level right now in terms of gerrymandering. So, I mean, I agree with him with what he said about how those politics and policies could trickle down and how people need to get engaged, but it is a process. And like I told you earlier, gerrymandering and redistricting is not something that is at the forefront of people's mind. You have to really be involved and really, really paying attention to this to even understand how these decisions are being made. And so it's just one of those things where it's going to call for everybody to become a community organizer. Even, if you feel like you never leave your house, pick up the phone and talk to your family members. neighbors about what's going on. Make it a conversation when you're having conversations with your neighbors, when you're at church and you're talking to people who are engaged in it, are frustrated about what's happening and do want to prevent this from trickling down locally, are all going to have to get in and start having some of these conversations.
All right, we are talking with Tequila Johnson. She is with the Equity Alliance, talking about home ownership, the racial wealth gap in home ownership, and there's also some talk about the proposed maps that came out today as far as redistricting. So we will take a break, continue our discussion. Be back right after this.